Hey everybody, Casey here with Life Abstract Gaming, and 1 week from now, my personal most anticipated Marvel movie to date is finally releasing. Let's talk about why so many of us are super hyped for Black Panther.
What happens now determines what happens to the rest of the world.
You will not be able to stay home, brother. You will not be able to plug in, turn on, and cop out. Wakanda forever! The revolution will not be televised.
Let's have some fun.
The revolution will be live.
In case you didn't pick up on it, by us, I meant black people. And yes, I'm fully aware there are a number of black folks who, for whatever reason, refuse to be happy about this movie's existence. I'm going to just ignore all that noise entirely because I don't need that kind of negativity in my life. It's because I'm choosing to ignore any negativity towards this film that I can't bring myself to watch it critically. So instead of an impression discussion, I want to go in depth on where the hype is coming from. The first and most obvious reason for our excitement is that Black Panther is black. He's the king of the fictional African country Wakanda, and his stories primarily take place there, which means he's not the token black guy in his own narrative. The supporting characters, his mentors, his assistants, even his enemies are all black for the most part. That's incredibly rare to see in a mainstream property, and by mainstream I mean not specifically targeting black audiences. This is a part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so if you're following the 10 plus year story at this point, you have to watch this movie starring an almost all black cast. And no, he's not the first black superhero to headline a major live adaptation. As you all remember, Marvel's Blade got a trilogy and a TV series a while later, and more recently Luke Cage released on Netflix. While those franchises are well liked, Blade was out before superhero movies were such a cultural phenomenon, and Luke Cage was released on a subscription streaming service. As popular as Netflix is, it still isn't as far-reaching as general cinemas or national TV stations. So with all this intent for mass appeal, it's significant that Marvel Studios selected Ryan Coogler to direct the project, who had only made 2 feature films at the time, Fruitvale Station and Creed. Based on his previous work, it was clear that a black perspective was intended, which is almost never the case at this level of big budget movie. And I do mean big budget. Black Panther is currently in a 19-way tie for being the 32nd most expensive movie ever made, with an estimated budget of around $200 million. And what's less surprising is no other film on this ranking has a black director or predominantly black cast. Until now, no studio has ever put this much money behind a movie project with such an African American vibe. I use the term African American vibe because it's a movie made in America featuring a bunch of black Americans. But what's even more amazing about this project is that it's set in Africa and is about Africans. If you don't already know, I myself am a first-generation Nigerian. My parents were immigrants to this country, and I grew up in a very African household. When I was a kid, you'd better believe it wasn't cool or in style to be African. Other kids and even teachers would routinely make fun of my full name, and I specifically remember a picture day where my parents put me in traditional African wear, and everybody in school that day was just about as awful as you can imagine. There were times when I was young that I really didn't want to be African. It just put a target on your back for ridicule. And this is because the media only ever portrays the entire continent as a barren wasteland trapped in the past with tons and tons of starving children. They ignore the parts of the continent that look like this, with people who are relatively well off. But you know, I haven't seen a single joke version of the name T'Challa, and the African nation of Wakanda is portrayed as the most technologically advanced place on Earth. Black Panther makes being African cool, and while the country he's from is fictional, none of the aesthetic is. It's all based on actual traditional clothing styles and architecture. It's new, updated, and fantastical, but it's very clearly African inspired, and now you can't look anywhere and not see that influence. The rise in popularity of African culture isn't solely because of this movie. I would also credit popular rappers like Wale and Jadena, but the anticipation of Black Panther is surely to bring it to a critical mass. Black Panther is such a big deal because it's something we've waited for a very long time. Give us the same opportunity as everybody else and watch what we can do. Black Panther has already broken records for advanced ticket sales. It's currently sitting at a 99% on the movie review aggregator Rotten Tomatoes. It's very likely to break the box office records, at least for every Marvel movie that's come before it. It's proof of concept that black is not a risk when you invest in our talent and culture rather than demean and exploit it. We can tell the difference, and we will celebrate the positives. So, are any of you guys as hype as I am for Black Panther? Have you got your tickets? Are you planning elaborate outfits to wear to the premiere? Let us know. We're listening.